Welcome back to Versus coverage of the NASCAR Southern Whelen Modified Tour, the Tri-County 150. Jimmy, they have fired the engines. It's a 19-car strong field that will go to post this evening. Now, in pole position qualifying, really a great performance by George Brunhusel III. But it is also a situation where, because of the redraw, we've got an interesting starting lineup. Let's get right to it. After the redraw, taking a look at who will start on the pole, it will be Johnny Sutton of Harrisburg, North Carolina. Starting on the outside is Brian Lofton. Now, Sutton, interestingly enough, we'll have to wait and see. He has chosen the inside lane. Second row, Heyer and Myers. And Myers is one of those guys that you definitely want to take a good, hard look at. Let's go to the third row. There's one of the Myers brothers, and James Savali, who is on top of the points right now.
And not the best spot to be in tonight.
Let's take a look at our eyes on Kelly Stavitz. You've got your eyes on old number one, don't you?
That's right. That's Burt Myers in the number one car. And Jack, not only has he raced here a handful of times, but he did 250 laps of testing here last Friday. He wasn't too excited about that 10th place qualifying run, but he's confident he will have a good car in the long run. He says the car seems to stay really comfortable, and he'd gladly sacrifice a good qualifying for the race. Now, he told me he wanted to be in the top 5 or 6 early on, and guess what, Jack? He's starting 5th.
Now, my eyes on is back there in the next row. That's George Brunhusel III. Georgie is the defending champion of the Southern Modified Tour, the Whelen Southern Modified Tour, having a one-off, and he could play a significant role in the outcome of the points chase this season. Let's go to row number 5. Row number 5 finds Miller and Fleming. Fleming, we all are taking a good hard look at, moving to Miller, and that's your eyes-on guy.
That's my eyes-on guy, Jack. And I think that LW, you know, he has a lot to prove. He had a drastic week in Langley, Virginia, and I think that he's the type of driver. We saw him get aggressive at Bowman Gray. We saw him get aggressive at Caraway, and I think he'll get aggressive tonight. Can he save his tires? But I think that my eyes-on guy could win this race.
Yeah, and you take a look at the rest of the field. Johnny K. Kiveman is known as Johnny K. in the 8 car, moving back into the 7th row. And this is where some of the guys that start. Gene Pack, who has won here back in the Southern Modified Auto Racing Tour. In fact, the last winner of a modified race here back in 1999. Row 9 will take us down to the remainder of the field. And Mike Norman, a big disappointment in his qualifying there. He will start in post position number 18, and Donnie Lax will bring the field down. It looks like we are about ready to go green. Taking a look at the weather, Jimmy, all of a sudden threatening thunderstorms. If you're the crew chief, do you rethink your strategy?
Yeah, you tell the driver to go as fast as he can. Think he stole it, Jackie, because this race will become official at 75 laps. Now, that could be a detriment if it doesn't rain. So when you play in the weather game, anytime in any sport, you've got to always remember, you play your hand too early, you can get trumped.
Like we say up north, and let's put some biscuits and gravy on it. Grandma, put your teeth in your pocketbook. We're about to go racing, Mod Squad style. One belongs to Brian Lofton, but I'm noticing James Savali looking very, very racy, trying to knock on the Myers number 4.
Jason Myers, very strong, but Savali did the same thing at Langley 2 weeks ago. Very aggressive early. Oh, we got a spinner in turn 4, the 47 of Andy Seiss.
That could have some big-time ramifications in the chase, in the points chase, because as we said, this is the 9th of 10 races. Yellow comes out for the first time this evening. Andy Seiss refires. He will take his position up at the rear of the field.
And getting back to what I was saying about James Savali, this guy, Jackie, bam, right through the field, 4 or 5 tenths quicker than anybody, gets to the lead, but you know what? Tim Brown closes in at the end. Can that happen again tonight? Right now, it looks like Savali's got the car. Only 3 laps into the race, though.
But I got to go back to this weather situation. That threat of scattered thunderstorms, they did start this race about 15 minutes earlier than they had anticipated, strictly because of a very scary weather forecast on the radar. And when you're dealing with these cars, let's take a look at the tail of the tape for a modified. It's not your typical NASCAR car. It's lighter. It uses much wider tires. And you talk about RPM. Well, maybe it's not as big as a Sprint Cup, but I'll tell you what, when you've got that horsepower to weight ratio, Jimmy, these things, you've driven them, they're pocket rockets.
And Jackie, the biggest thing I believe is the weight and the height of the cars. You know, the Whelen Modified Tour, about 41 inches off the ground. The NASCAR Sprint Cup car, NASCAR Sprint Cup car, about 51 inches and 51.5 inches wide, 83 inches wide. So there's a lot of difference in the width and the height and the weight. So big differences.
Let's see if we can get a quick update on the weather and on track conditions from car number 79, the points leader. James Savali, Jack Root, and Jimmy Spencer up in the booth. Weather conditions, threatening weather, have you and the Hillbilly Racing team changed your strategy at all?
We're on the same strategy. We want to get to the front early and lead the most laps. So, I mean, it's going to be a lot easier if this race gets shortened up, but we got the same strategy so far.
What about the early race conditions? Jimmy was talking about tire management. You seem to be sticking down on the low side pretty good.
Yeah, the car's good. We're just going to get after it here and see if we can get out front.
All right, we'll talk to you later. You're about ready to get back to green. You got to let's reset the field. Right now, Brian Lofton on the brake, and he's elected to start on the outside. Johnny Sutton will find himself on the inside lane. We were talking about Jason Myers in row number 2. He's the black car with the 4. Flanking him on the outside is the guy we just talked to, Savali. And then it's the 44 of Brandon Heyer and Burt Myers on the outside. Now, as they start to come up through the gearbox, here's what you got to watch too, right, Jimmy? Traction when you get these restarts coming up through the gears.
Yeah, we're going to get the green flag here. You got to get a good restart, get the thing shifted into high gear as quickly as you can.
Savali goes to the high side.
Good racing right now, Jackie. Savali powers off the back straightaway.
There's that bumper tag.
I love the bumper tag, my best friend. Savali aggressively shoots to the outside of Lofton. Now to the bottom of the racetrack and makes the pass. I'm telling you what, this car is doing the same thing he did in Langley. This thing is stout tonight.
And I'm telling you what, you're a pretty good play-by-play man. I began to think that maybe Brian Lofton was going to try and do a swap-over move, but just couldn't get the reins in on that 650 horsepower. Now the black number 1 of Myers, Burt Myers, has moved into the 3rd position. An awful lot of racing in the early going.
This track warrants good racing. We see the banking in the corner, the 2 wide racing. These modifieds putting on a great show right now. But this track, allowing this to happen, and this is what I love about short track racing. When you can race 2 or 3 wide. Here's 3 wide coming off the turn 2. This is exciting, Jackie.
Well, L.W. Miller, I would think, is beginning to feel a little bit of pressure because he looks out in front and he sees some of the key guys. Seiss is coming from the back. He has moved up 1 position, but he sees Savali, his nemesis, going hammer and tong for the lead with Lofton in the 23, and he says, time to go.
And the thing about LW, he has had some success this year. He seemed to falter last week when we raced at Langley, but tonight, car looks like it's on its game. Another guy moving up right there is a 25 of John Smith. Caution again.
Caution for
Zach Brewer in
for
turn
the Brewer
3 and
car,
4.
the Phoenix car. 2nd caution of the evening, with 12 laps in the record books. And while we are under caution, we are going to go away. But as we said before, there's plenty of racing to come here on Versus.